Thanks very much, Jim, and welcome to all of you. You'll be thrilled to hear that when I read the programme initially, I understood that I had a 15-minute slot, but I now understand that I've got 10 minutes, and so therefore I've been feverishly putting lines through my speech. And you'll be thrilled to hear that my speech is shorter than I anticipated in the first instance. I've got great pleasure in welcoming you to this conference this morning and to Glasgow. And as you might guess, I'm very pleased to be given the opportunity, however brief, to extol the virtues of this city and to talk about the work that the Council is doing to promote education and learning. We're a big authority. We have 138 primary schools, we have 30 secondaries, 27 schools for children or young people with additional support needs, and we own and manage 110 nurseries, and we work with 123 partner nursery providers. There are 41,000 children in our primary schools, over 26,000 in our secondaries, and over 1,200 in our ASL schools. We're working towards a massive expansion of early learning and childcare with the objective of delivering 1,140 hours of free childcare and early learning for preschool children by 2020, a date, if you're good at maths, is becoming ever scarily closer. Over 14,000 of our children and young people come from ethnic minority groups, and over 12,500 have English as an additional language. Over 1,500 of our youngsters in schools are care experienced. Finally, but crucially, more than half of our pupils, over 55%, live in the 20% most deprived areas as defined by the Scottish Index of Multiple Deprivation. And that compares to a little over 20% for the rest of Scotland. Given all of that, attainment is a huge challenge. But it's also an area where huge progress has been made over the last 10 years. Now, I could give you a lot of statistics about that change, but I'll just give you an example of one particular secondary school that illustrates it. And that particular school happens to be very close to where I represent, St Thomas Aquinas Secondary School. And in 2006, that school, which draws pupils from all over the west of the city, including Drumchapel, Knightswood, Yoker, Scotstoun, Partick, less than 1/3 of that school in 2006 achieved one or more higher. By 2018, that figure had jumped to almost 2/3 in 10 years, almost 2/3. And that change is mirrored across the city from all our secondaries in terms of attainment. But what happens after our young people leave school has also undergone huge improvement. The most recent figures show that over 92% of school leavers went into positive destinations after leaving school. And the percentage in Glasgow going into further and higher education is over 68%. The most recent inspection and report into our work, how well is Glasgow City Council improving learning, raising attainment and closing the poverty-related attainment gap? It's not the snappiest title that Education Scotland have ever come up with. Praised, and I quote, the relentless drive to reduce the impact of poverty on the outcomes of all children and young people in the city. Success in tackling many of the deep-seated issues in education in Glasgow hasn't been easy, and it isn't quick. We know that there is no silver bullet in education, no magic elixir that with one dose all ills are cured. For us, there is only sound policy acted on over a long period of time and an unwavering focus on learning and teaching that's going to deliver the incremental improvements year by year that make the difference for our young people. This has been our work over the last decade, and I'm firmly committed to it being our continued goal in the years to come. What does all that achievement and all those numbers add up to? Yes, the statistics are impressive, and they're a credit to both past and current city administrations, to the professionals who run the services, and to the teachers and support staff above all in our schools and nurseries. But far more importantly, every one of those improved numbers represents improved life chances for our young people. The chance to grow and develop, to achieve and prosper in Glasgow and in Scotland. Our future growth, our future prosperity depends on their success. What we do in education today, whether that be with 3-year-olds, 7-year-olds or 15-year-olds, matters for the future. But of course, learning and development doesn't stop on the last day of school or after the graduation ceremony. The cliché of every day being a school day has never been more true than it is today. And it's important to acknowledge that the flip side of Glasgow's improvement over the last decade is the loss of opportunity for past generations of pupils and school leavers. One comment that has stayed with me since the early days of my work as education convener was from a secondary head teacher serving a working class community, not the school that I referred to earlier, from a working class community that is now achieving much greater success in sending its pupils to college and university. Parents, she said, wanted to help their children, but had limited experience of more advanced study. They had often felt let down by the education system in their own youth. Now, that was said in the context of those young people, but it highlights the challenge for all of those adults in Glasgow and in Scotland who still want to learn and develop, but whose years of formal education are behind them, or who are new to our city and who want to take advantage of the opportunities it presents. These are the challenges for community learning and development, whether delivered directly or by working with partners to signpost and support individuals or communities. Glasgow, as all of you no doubt will know and recognise, has a duality about it, a polarisation amongst our citizens which presents us with both challenges and opportunities. We have on the one hand an extremely well-educated and highly skilled population, which is benefiting from our economic successes. On the other hand, we have far too large a population experiencing what is often generational disadvantage and who find themselves excluded from that success. We at Glasgow City Council believe that our city should be world-class, with thriving and resilient communities where everyone can flourish and benefit from the city's success. But that is difficult to achieve when so many of our citizens are excluded from economic and civic life, from life within their own neighbourhoods. It's why, and this is in bold on my screen, on my sheet, it's why inclusive economic growth, empowering and making our communities resilient, and building a fairer and more equitable Glasgow are the core pillars of this city government. And it's why our current community learning and development plan mirrors these three central areas of focus for our administration, for our city. It's my firm belief that CLD is an essential foundation to achieve this, to help change the lives of some of our most vulnerable and disadvantaged individuals, families and communities, to improve the quality of personal, social and working lives. So we must ensure that our community learning and development approaches are woven into the fabric of our communities if Glasgow is to meet the huge challenges caused by poverty and inequality, by technological change and by demographic shift. I just want to talk briefly about these three pillars in terms of CLD and the city government. Inclusive economic growth permeates our entire approach to the well-being of this city. We are striving for an economy which works for all of our citizens. We're clear that tackling inequality is at the heart of economic growth. As we unpicked the underlying causes of underperformance in our economy, it was no surprise to find that skills, very often basic skills such as literacy and numeracy, are close to the top. So CLD is becoming increasingly important in ensuring we deliver our growth agenda for those experiencing inequality and disadvantage, to deliver lifelong opportunities, skills and confidence. We are continually engaged in attempting to bring attractive jobs to this city. In recent weeks, the council leader, Susan Aitken, has spoken again about the skills gaps our city faces, how Brexit may exacerbate this, and how we need to utilise the talent already available in the city, and I'm speaking here particularly about our refugee and asylum population. Glasgow is Scotland's most ethnically diverse city, something of which we are actually tremendously proud. 1 in 8 of our citizens is from an ethnic minority, and we are home to 3/4 of Scotland's refugee and asylum children. Community learning and development has been a means whereby many of our new Glaswegians have learnt new skills, such as English as a second language. Over the past year, over 1,700 adults have participated in ESOL sessions in libraries and colleges, 94% of whom reported that they felt their English had improved, and 74% of whom reported increased confidence and self-esteem. These are basic skills we need to equip many of our migrant population for life in our city, and we hope the economic life of Glasgow. Secondly, CLD has a role to play in making our communities more resilient, empowering local people to make a contribution to their community. As we know all too well, poverty and health-related inequalities disproportionately affect Glaswegians. Combined with the erosion of community resilience, we can see why Glasgow has a higher mortality rate than similar UK post-industrial cities, which is why Jim and I represent a triumph of having reached 65 years of age. Over and above what might be explained by differences in socioeconomic deprivation, it's often referred to as the Glasgow effect. The erosion of participation in city and community life are contributing factors to the Glasgow effect. It is why this city government is so committed to empowering our communities and building that resilience. CLD gives us a foothold to work with communities to reduce isolation and create the conditions which allow neighbourhoods to thrive, assist residents in helping shape services, influence decisions, and become more inclusive. Community learning really has that capacity to reduce inequality and loneliness on a significant scale. And as we address our economic growth and community empowerment challenges, CLD has a role in making Glasgow a fairer and more equitable place to live, learn, and work. So what next? As I've explained, through these links, these synergies, with our own political agenda, we will ensure that our community learning and development plan is woven into the fabric of our communities, so Glasgow can meet the huge challenges caused by poverty and inequality, by technological change. And we will look to see where these synergies continue to feed into our plans, not least in our pioneering digital strategy, which will strive to ensure every citizen has basic digital skills and free or low-cost internet access, because we know that digital participation is critical in both the labour market and in combating loneliness and isolation. But Glasgow City Council cannot do all of this alone, and partnerships are integral to success. It's been a hallmark of the current administration that we've sought to take partnership working to a new level. Doing all of this will strengthen the leadership and visibility of CLD at all levels of the city, from the high strategic level through to our engagement at a community and grassroots level. All of our elected members, every 85 of us, every one of us in this city must become a CLD ambassador, raising its profile, signposting access to opportunities, guiding citizens towards participation and championing its effect on all levels of city life. By doing so, we can and will make sure that every citizen of Glasgow has the tools he or she needs in order to continue their personal development, regardless of their circumstances. So welcome to Glasgow, and welcome to this conference. On behalf of Susan Aitken, the Council Leader, and on behalf of all of our citizens, I hope you have an enjoyable, stimulating, and thought-provoking conference. Thank you.